sometimes mitoch from a mila, from something that's good, come out negative things. There's so much learning today, and there's so much emphasis in a certain way in the wider world, less in yeshivas themselves, on hespik and covering ground and finishing and things like that. And of course there are many good things about that, but one of the negative things about that, which anyone serious about studying has to realize, in my humble opinion, is that it makes you less savor and go slowly and carefully and reflectively over the lines that you're reading. Oh, of course, I could just learn Shas so fast. Like, why would I go so slow? Well, if you want to understand it, you have to go slow. It's just how it is. That doesn't mean there's nothing to be said about understanding a faster way, and each person has to make his own cheshbonot according to their busy schedules and lives, etc. And involvement in learning is so important. But we can't lose sight of what Jewish learning is in its essence. And it's really, these are deep works. The Word of God is deep. What else would you expect from the Rebbeinu Shalom? It's funny to even say it, right? And Kol came from Nevi'av, the Chachamav, the Nemanov, those Bali Masorah. And when we learn too fast, we just kind of like can go over lines that are so important. My friend Gino Label told me one time, he was sitting with our Rebbe, Rabbi Yaakov Friedman Shlita, and he was learning maybe, let's say, a Rashba or something, and he had different lines underlined. Rabbi Yaakov's point, well, why do you want to underline this line? And there's so many dukim in that line. What about that line? What about that line? Every line is chock full of understanding and idea. So you always have to watch that when you're going slow, when you're going fast, just to be maspik, that you're trampling, going over, missing so many yisodas. And I give that short introduction. I might have given it before in this session. It's something I might repeat. I think it's a very, very important idea today, and always. And we're going to show you that in the next lines in the Mesilas Yesharim. So the Mesilas Yesharim continues in the first parak. Vim tamik od b'inyan tireh. If you go deeper into things, you're going to see ki olam nivra l'shimash adam. The world was created for the shimash of adam. And then he says, "Amnam hu yinei omer b'shikol gadol." We'll see in a moment. Wait. Olam nivra b'shimash adam in tamik od. We could read that line very quickly, but he's saying something enormous here, and this is an enormous shift in what we've been discussing so far. When we think about our relationship with the world until now, it's been a adversarial relationship. The world is a milchama, oni mitzad echad, osh mitzad echad, shav mitzad echad, yisur mitzad echad, and we went into it and we explained it. Of course, very important. Taiva against tova, taiva against goodness, taiva is chumrius, etc. And now suddenly, ha'olam nivra l'shimash adam. The world is created for my shimash. The world's against me. The world's challenging me. The world's beating me up. Yeah, that's on one level. V'im tamik od b'inyan, but if you go deeper, you'll see another level of reality. And Rav Noach Weinberg Shlita, I mentioned this before, that he has this phenomenal Diukim. It really started in the paragraph before, Kishitistakel obadavar tira. When you look more into, you'll see there it's not as clear to me, the shift, and I mentioned that. Here the shift is enormous, and that's what he's getting to here. Im tamik od b'inyan tira. If you see deeply into the world, and you understand deeply how things are built, the world was created for your shimush. The world was created for you. It's not against you, it's for you. Let's go a little further. If you go afterward and you go far from your creator, then you're mekalkel olam yimo, and you will go down and the world will go down with you. But if you control yourself, and connect yourself to the bori, you use the world as a siua, as a help, in order to help you in your avodas Hashem. Then hu misaleh, he goes up, and the beautiful thing, va'olam mitaleimo. Okay, so now let's take a second and think about this. And well, was it wrong what he said before, that there's an adversarialness to the world? No, it really depends on us. If our attitude towards food is disconnection and going into my taiva and my world and forgetting about my children, the people around me, going out with friends, and all I see is the food in front of me, and I become, the animal parts of me take over, and I overeat and I whatever else, so then I'm going down, and the world was milchama. But if I use the opportunity to my friends as a chizik to them, a chizik to myself, that afterwards I'll be able to engage in avodas Hashem in a stronger way, in a better way, in a more solid way, then I use the world for the right thing. We all know this basic idea, but you see it so clearly in these two parts of Mesilas Yesharim. So what's the truth? It's like a microscope. They're both true. If you look at things at level 10, this is what's happening. If you look at things at 10 times, this is what's happening. You look at things 50 times, this is what's happening. You look at things 100 times, 1,000 times, microscopically, something totally different is happening. What's happening? They're all happening, but it just depends where you are. And that's why it's so important in ideas like this for a person to be very, very honest with himself and know where you are. Right? Am I at the point where I can take these physical things and use them? Or do I have to cut myself off from them because I don't know how to use them, right? Theoretically, we understand that a tzaddik could eat more than a regular person because he knows how to use it the right way. Another person might say, you know what, of course the world is for shimushi, but when I get around food or other things, like I just lose it, and I'm cut off, and I'm not connected to anything, and therefore I have to stay far away. But I'm not going to go out at all. I'll eat. Every person has to eat, but I'm not going to engage in that to try to be malo the food, etc. So that's so important. And this is such an example of, as now we go back to my introduction. You can just read this quickly. Oh, you can tell me God been in Tirah, kill him in the Rebbeim Shalom. Oh, that's a nice thing. The world Shalom. Wait. Why is that deeper? And what's deeper about that? Only the relationship. And now why in fact, friends, is that deeper? Because it's a deeper understanding of reality, right? There's one thing to see reality just adversarial to me. People are against me, Tivus are against me, etc. But you're not touching on the depth of the world. The world is really wants to, as we will see in the continuation of the Mesilas Yesharim, the world wants to be at one with its creator. The world wants to be at one with man. It wants to kaviyachol use man. The non-Jews want direction from Klal Yisrael. They're hurting. Now, it doesn't look like they're hurting. It looks like they're trying to hurt us. And unfortunately, they're doing a decent job of it. And we don't know when it's going to get better before it gets worse. Rahman al-Islam, right? But deep down, Amalek is out. But deep down, there are many, many sources which you see the idea that eventually that a lot of the non-Jews are gonna get the message and fall into line behind Klal Yisrael and let us lead them into the future, into the Messianic age, and etc. But right now they're against us. So the world is against it, but it's deeper. There's an amazing line I saw recently in Rav Kook where it says the tzaddikim hamufloim, the wondrous, not just a tzaddikim. This is a loose quote. Tzaddikim from the tzaddikim hamufloim, the wondrous tzaddikim, and he says to basically have their tivus and control, and the world's not taking them over. This person, so they see all the yofi in the bria. They can see the greatness in everything that's happening, and they can engage in only dvar mutarim, but they can engage in everything we call noga, every gray area they can engage in and look at art and sciences and etc. Not that sciences are great. I'm not speaking B'diak here, but everybody gets the tone of what I'm saying. And they can be mala all of it. They can see all of it and make sense out of it. It was an amazing thing. He said that he saw in Rembrandt he said that Rembrandt was a tzaddik. I read a interview which he had with an English, I think it was an English Jewish newspaper person had with him. A journalist. It was fascinating. He said that that Rembrandt touched some of the oreganas. It was, when I would see a Rembrandt painting, it's like, oh, that's a nice painting. Is that oil, or how do you do that? But Rav Kook saw it. He saw that the hand of God. He saw that something deeper there. Right. I'll just give one more example, which we could all relate to, especially that that the mixing of men and women, right? The different sexes. Do we see the yof in each other? Do we see the tithe in each other? That's such a good example, right? There's something there which is so holy and is so, shir shirim, the greatest example. Kol Ksav Kodesh, and shir shirim is Kodesh HaKadoshim. But we see in the world how that Kodesh HaKadoshim is so mushbal and so objectified and so chulin and so treif and so tameh. Everything that was supposed to be so beautiful is trampled on. Well, what is it? What's the real story? Yeah, it's Kudsha Bricha and it's Shechina, and it's Klal Yisrael and Hashem, but unfortunately, in that koach is this koach of absolute separation, an absolute disconnect, an absolute ra and talmavis and shimamon and every bad word you can say, and we have to misrachik from as much as we can misrachik from it, and we see how much of the world gets stuck in that. So that's it. So what is it? Well, it depends. On the one hand, there's a big milchama, there's a battle, there's that, but in tamek od b'nir tireh, when a person can control himself and get over things, and then suddenly there's a different world of Shemesh Adam. Rak li'olo l'siua lavod baro. perhaps we gave some of these examples before, but I want to repeat them. A person says, I'm going to work very, very hard on a midah a whole week. At the end of the week, I'm going to reward myself with a chocolate bar or with a falafel, with a shawarma, going out to eat, or a steak, depending where you live and your financial bracket. That's Kodesh. That's Kodesh. That's excellent. Or I'm going to try to learn hard and put my phone away when I'm learning and not get distracted. Excellent, outstanding. That's mamish using the physical world to help you. When a person sits down and eating, and I speak as one who struggles with these things and speak honestly with the tzibur, not as someone who's out of the maze, very much in the maze. But when we look at it like that this food, this breakfast is the way for me to connect. This breakfast is a way for me to have kof, to learn. That's what I want over here. And of course, once I'm seeing it like that, I want my friends to have kof also. I don't want to just take it for myself, right? Taiva, as we said last time, taiva is something which separates, which puts everything away, which breaks the continuation. So that's what's going on here. So this is an enormously important line, enormously shifting line, and we see two levels of reality that the Ramchal is taking us into. Okay, let's continue. Hine. Now we said, I'm going to read from the Hine. Ki im hadam nimshach achar olam min rachek miboro, Hine hu mitkalkel olam imo. Vim hu sholet batzmo, but he controls himself. V'nidbak b'boro, mishtamish melom rak l'siur lavod boro, hu mitaleh va'olam atzma mitalimo. This is really important. Right? We didn't emphasize it so much yet. He goes up, and the world goes up with you. The world, as we said, wants to see. The world has Elikus in it. The world has holiness in it. There's a shorish in everything. Who made the bria? Who made the rocks? Who made the stones? It has to be. There's something behind everything. It's a tremendous elevation. They're elevated, right? The organas, the cave in Shira or that's all the or shekanas Kadosh Baruch Hu lo tzadikim samach, he was happy. Shnemar or tzadikim yismach. Ubeinin, there's a clearer proof. Beinin avnei amakom shelokach Yaakov samar roshal zav amru. Amru Yitzchak Chazal said, what about the Avanim? Look at this. Yaakov, the Adam Hashalom, Bechir Avis, comes to sleep. And he puts his head down. All the rocks came. Each one said, Alai yaniach tzadik rosho. The rocks wanted to be mishamish them. Wanted to be mishamish Yaakov Avinu. What does this mean? Here's important. I don't want to be provocative or get into hot water with my dear listeners, learners together. But this means that when a Yid eats, let's say Shabbos Kodesh, when he eats on Shabbos Kodesh chicken, meat, right, you're being mal of that animal. You're bringing it to a higher place. Ki lekach natzarta, like Rebbe said, lekach natzarta, that's what you're created for. And now you're going from a position of just being animal, chai, to being medaber, to be Yisrael on Shabbos. What could be better for an animal than that, right? I hope we appreciate that. When we imagine, let's take ourselves out of the picture on Shabbos, but let's think about a korban. I hope we appreciate, anybody with a little bit of a Jewish feeling has to feel that the korbanos were good, and when that korban, when that calf, when that goat goes on high, it's an elevation for it, as much as the world can be elevated. That's what we're talking about here, right? So that the more man, and when we're making tefillin straps, that's the proper world. Of course, God forbid, Bal Tashchis, to do negative things to the physical world is I think anybody understands that that's not Jewish. And Bal Tashchis, as the Sefer Chinuch explains it, it's a very important Sefer Chinuch. I can't say Bal Peh, but look there, that of course we don't waste the world. We're not destructive. Terrible. I think anybody with a little bit of feeling realizes that's not a Jewish way, just to be destructive, to break things, to hurt things. No, we appreciate it's all Rebbeinu Shalom's bria. Yaakov went back for Pachim Ketanim, small items we have to value. It's part of the problem of our disposable age. We don't value things so much because we can always just replace them. I'm not going to replace my phone, not going to replace my printer, not going to replace my computer, just throw it out. Everything's disposable. Things are made like that. It's a shame because we learn not to be miyaka them, not to appreciate them. Okay, that's on level, but when the physical world is being mishamish us in a good way, that's a great elevation for the physical world. There's nothing better for Betsy the cow than to get into your stomach. especially on Shabbos, right? And especially, and that's what it says. Someone who gives wine to Talmidei Chacham is it's like Nesachim. It's like a wine libation. And one who gives, if I could, give to Rabbeim Kanievsky, what would be better for me than that? And what would be better for the steak that I would make than go into his mouth? If either Tzim Hayer, the greatest pleasure, Moshe Hirsch. So that would be unbelievable. Dov Lando, what a schus for me and what a schus for the water to get elevated like that. That's what it means. It's a real thing. That's what the reading Mesilas Yesharim. That's what he's saying. It's an Eloi Gadol when they're mishamish. There was a secular writer who wrote 100 years ago, maybe, about the Chazon Ish. I don't think he called him Chazon Ish by name, but everybody knew he was referring to the Chazon Ish. And he said how the tzaddik goes through the forest, and the birds are basically, that's what he's saying. The birds are chirping towards him, and the grasses are rising towards him, and the trees are leaning over to him, and they're all being mishamish him, because the bria is then working the way it works. I had a diuk one time, an inference. In Parshas B'chukosai, we say in B'chukosai Teilechu, Mishmatai Tishmoro Vasisimosam. When you do all those things, then all the brachos come in. The end of Vayikra is well known, and it's all dependent on Amal Torah. B'chukosai Teilechu means to Amelin B'Torah, right? That's why we have to be so appreciative of Omli Torah, those who are bringing bracha through their Amelos B'Torah. To Amelin B'Torah, you have to be Amal B'Torah. That's what keeps Klal Yisrael going. Okay, and it says Vanatati Yishmechem B'itam. I'll give you your rain in its time. B'itam. What do you mean its time? The rain doesn't have a time. What do you mean the time of the rain? Yishmechem, I understand your rain in its time. So my understanding was this idea: the rain, kaviyachol, so to speak, wants to come at a time which is the rain has a bit of holiness in it. The rain knows that its purpose is to mishamish the anashim shleimim. The rain wants to not cause flooding and mud spills and mess and death and destruction and sadness and Lassie getting saved in a little dinghy in New Orleans. That's not what the rain's for. The rain wants to be mishamish, but it's dependent on us. So when we're then the rain can be what wants it really to be. So you have to think about that. I'm talking to myself that. Look at that. This whole bria is looking towards us and saying, please, let me be who I want to be. Let me help you to reach your tafkid, which is the tafkid of the whole world, which will elevate all of us. It's like a nation turning its leader who's a little depressed and down, saying, Winston, we need you. It's 1943. Like, get out of your doldrums. All England is behind you, but we need a leader. We need someone to direct us, to bring us away, to elevate us, to inspire us, to show us the way. It's you or not. That's how the whole bria is looking at us. B'nei al ikar as a hirinu zichron levracha b'medrash koheles. Shom lishon re'ei and masel kim yuchal ataken et shivto. That's a pasuk. B'shash bar kadosh baruch es adam rishon. The time when man created Adam Rishon, not talo, he took him v'chziro al koli lani gan eden. Amarlo re'ei masai Adam. Look. Kama noyem shubachim. How beautiful is my world. I always remember when I think about this because my father said to me, we went to Hawaii, to Oahu, when I was maybe 11, and he said to me that everything that's natural here is beautiful. The man-made stuff, not so great, but everything that's natural, right? Hawaii. Now you can imagine if that's Hawaii, that's the Alps. What was Gan Eden like? How beautiful, how wonderful. How much you want to get into Teva, right? As I have some trees behind me. Re'ei ma'asai, Adam. Look, kama noim umushubachim heim. B'choma shabarati, everything I created, b'shvilcha barati. It's for you. There's no other purpose in it than you. Tein daitcha, please pay attention. Shlo tekalkel v'tachariv et olami. Tein daitcha, shlo tekalkel v'tachariv et olami.